Silence is not a weakness. It's a doorway to strength. Most men live in a constant state of noise, texts, notifications, obligations, and distractions. The moment that noise stops, silence creeps in, and with it, discomfort. That stillness can feel unsettling, almost like something is wrong. There's no buzz, no message, no plan, just you, alone. And in that moment, a whisper of doubt surfaces, a pressure in your chest, a quiet ache, not for company, but for proof that you matter to someone. That's when most men bolt. They grab their phones, reach for validation, scroll through distractions, or reach out to someone they shouldn't, all just to escape the weight of being unseen. But silence isn't punishment. It's an invitation. It's not emptiness, it's exposure. The world told you silence means you're falling behind, that if no one is calling, you're undesirable or failing. But that's a lie. The truth is, silence shows you what you've been avoiding, your regrets, your untapped potential, the promises you made to yourself and never kept. That's why it feels so heavy, because it's real. The man who stays in that silence, who doesn't run, who breathes through the discomfort instead of hiding from it, he becomes dangerous. Not in a loud, aggressive way, but in a grounded, powerful way. He's not numbing himself. He's building something strong, quiet, and lasting. He's forging resilience. That's real strength, the kind that doesn't shout but endures. The kind that doesn't need attention but commands respect. Most will run from silence because it forces them to confront themselves. But the man who walks into it, who embraces it, becomes someone no one can shake. Because he's no longer seeking the world's approval, he's meeting the man he was meant to become. And that's where transformation begins. Approval detox, breaking the hidden addiction. Most men aren't addicted to substances, they're addicted to approval. It's invisible, subtle, and socially accepted, which makes it more dangerous than we realize. From the moment they wake up, many men instinctively check their phones, not for information, but for validation. Did she reply? Did someone like that post? Did anyone notice me today? This quiet craving for recognition masquerades as connection, but it's really neediness in disguise. Over time, it begins to shape who they become. They say yes when they want to say no. They laugh at things they don't find funny. They hide parts of themselves just to be accepted. And while it feels like safety, it's actually self-abandonment. This need to be liked is a prison. You decorate the walls with compliments and likes, but inside you feel stuck, trapped in a version of yourself built by others' expectations, not your own truth. Approval feels like a high, quick, thrilling, and gone just as fast. The more you chase it, the more you lose yourself. Eventually you burn out, not because you're weak, but because wearing a mask every day is exhausting. But there's a way out. It starts with an approval detox. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. You stop reshaping your opinions just to fit in. You start asking real questions. Am I doing this because I believe in it, or because I want someone's approval? That single question can shift your entire life. At first, the silence is loud. You may feel isolated, unsure, but that discomfort is growth. Slowly, your real voice returns, not the one that seeks attention, but the one that speaks from truth. You stop performing. You start living aligned with your values. You no longer chase being seen. You become someone who is seen because your energy doesn't ask, it declares. People notice the shift. You carry yourself differently. You become rooted, not reactive. And what you lose, fake friends, shallow praise, is nothing compared to what you gain: peace, clarity, and power. True strength comes not from being liked by everyone, but from being fully yourself in a world that constantly demands you be someone else. Choosing yourself is the most radical move a man can make. Clarity through solitude, reclaiming your inner compass. There comes a moment in every man's life when the noise fades, no meetings, no texts, no background chatter, and what remains is silence. For many, that quiet feels strange, even threatening, because it reveals something deeper themselves. In a world that constantly demands attention and performance, solitude can feel unnatural. But solitude isn't isolation, it's restoration. It's not about cutting the world off, it's about cutting through the noise to hear what's real. When you finally sit in stillness, something powerful happens. You begin to notice how much of your life has been lived on autopilot, chasing goals that were never yours, maintaining relationships that drain you, and living by standards handed down by others. You realize how often you've conformed, performed, or reacted just to keep up. But in solitude, there's no one to impress, no image to maintain. You're left with your own thoughts, your own truth. And that's where clarity begins. Clarity doesn't arrive with fanfare. It arrives quietly when you stop chasing and start listening. You begin asking better questions. Not what do others expect of me, but what actually matters to me. You see which people energize you and which leave you empty. You recognize the habits that nourish you and those that numb you. You stop lying to yourself just to avoid discomfort. Instead of filling the silence you learn from it, you sit with it, and slowly your true self emerges, not the polished, approved version, but the honest one. As that clarity grows, so does your sense of direction. You begin building routines that reflect your purpose, making choices that honor your values and surrounding yourself with people who align with your growth. You stop explaining your path to those who'll never understand it. You no longer need to justify your peace. Solitude sharpens everything. It burns away distractions. It dismantles illusions. And what remains is a man who moves with intention, who speaks with weight, and who lives from the inside out. The man who walks alone is not lost, he's focused. Not broken, but being rebuilt. And from that quiet foundation, he rises not to perform, but to lead himself. That's the gift of solitude. Not emptiness, but clarity with purpose. Inner mastery, choosing yourself over performance. At some point, every man must face a hard truth. You can either keep performing for the world or finally show up for yourself. Most men are taught to chase attention, approval, validation. They move from woman to woman, job to job, friendship to friendship, not because they're building something, but because they're running from something. The fear of being alone drives them to stay in motion, to stay distracted. But real change doesn't come from adding more noise to your life. It comes from pausing long enough to hear what's underneath. The man who chooses himself truly chooses, does something rare. He stops chasing. He stops performing. He stops reshaping who he is to please rooms that were never built for him. Instead, he stands still. And in that stillness, he meets a version of himself that he's ignored for years. Not the version molded by pressure or popularity, but the one defined by inner conviction. Choosing yourself means you start honoring your time, protecting your peace, and setting standards not to control others, but to respect yourself. You stop laughing at things you don't find funny. You stop engaging in conversations that drain you. You stop apologizing for being different. And in return, something powerful happens. You begin to radiate presence, not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that quietly commands it. The world teaches men to be seen by performing, by competing, by pleasing. But the man who doesn't beg to be noticed, who simply stands in his truth, becomes impossible to ignore. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. That's the outcome of choosing authenticity over approval. Of course, this path costs you. You'll lose shallow relationships, empty praise, and maybe even opportunities that were never meant for you. But what you gain is everything: clarity, peace, and the kind of strength that can't be shaken by rejection or applause. Choosing yourself isn't a trend or a phase. It's a commitment to live real, not rehearsed, to speak with intention, not to impress, and to build a life that reflects who you are, not who others expect you to be. In a world full of noise, the man who leads from within becomes unforgettable. From noise to power, why stillness transforms a man. In today's world, noise is everywhere. Opinions, messages, demands, distractions. Most men are taught to respond to that noise, to chase it, to prove themselves through action. But what happens when you stop? When you turn down the volume, put away the distractions, and sit alone without performance or pretense? At first, it feels unnatural, even uncomfortable. But if you stay with that stillness long enough, you begin to notice something extraordinary. Power doesn't come from reacting to the world. It comes from mastering yourself. Stillness isn't about being passive or withdrawn. It's about choosing to stop reacting and start reflecting. In that quiet space, your thoughts grow sharper, your emotions settle, and your values rise to the surface. You stop needing the world to confirm your worth. Instead, you begin recognizing it from within. That's when you shift from a man who follows the current to one who shapes it. You stop being easily provoked. You stop engaging in pointless drama. You stop explaining your every move to people who were never invested in your truth. You become rooted, grounded, present. Your decisions carry weight not because you raise your voice, but because your energy speaks before you do. The man who walks in stillness doesn't chase applause. He doesn't need to be seen to know he matters. He's no longer led by impulse or insecurity. Instead, he moves with purpose because he has faced himself and found clarity. His habits reflect discipline, his routines reflect intention, and his silence, far from emptiness, becomes his sharpest edge. This kind of stillness creates men who lead without shouting, who influence without trying, and who build without begging for permission. In a world addicted to noise and visibility, the man who builds quietly becomes a force, not because he's trying to impress anyone, but because he no longer needs to. Stillness is not weakness, it's strategy, it's preparation, it's self-respect. And when a man commits to it, he doesn't just find peace, he finds power. Not the kind that demands control, but the kind that radiates from inner mastery. That's the man the world remembers, calm, clear, and completely unshakable. The man who chooses himself attracts what others chase. When a man stops chasing approval, attention, or status, something powerful happens. Life starts aligning. Not because of luck or magic, but because he finally aligns with himself. Most men spend their lives trying to be chosen. They chase relationships, opportunities, and recognition, believing their value depends on being seen, picked, or praised. But the moment a man stops waiting to be chosen and chooses himself instead, everything shifts. Choosing yourself means no longer trying to fit into rooms that don't respect you. It means refusing to perform for validation or shrink to keep others comfortable. It's not pride, it's clarity. And that clarity sends a message even without words. I know who I am, and I'm no longer available for anything that compromises that. That kind of presence draws the right people, opportunities, and outcomes. Not because you're chasing them, but because you've become a man who attracts by alignment, not desperation. You move differently when you're not seeking validation. You speak with more confidence. You set firmer boundaries. You let people go without needing to be understood. And in return, what stays is real. What arrives is meant, and what leaves never belonged. That's the paradox. When you stop running after everything, the right things find their way to you. This isn't arrogance, it's quiet strength. It's the result of doing the inner work, of sitting in silence, of facing your truth and building from the inside out. When a man reaches that level of self-respect, he doesn't need the world to tell him he's enough. He already knows. And from that place, he doesn't beg for approval. He lives in such a way that the world takes notice. Not because he asks for attention, but because his energy commands it. Rooted and unshakable, the man who leads himself. The ultimate strength of a man isn't found in how loud he speaks or how much he achieves, it's found in how grounded he is. When a man becomes rooted in who he truly is, no storm can shake him. He no longer reacts to every opinion, argument, or rejection. He no longer feels the need to defend his path or prove his worth. Why? Because he's done the work in silence. He's faced his pain, questioned his values, and chosen clarity over comfort. Most men live vulnerable to outside forces, criticism, comparison, manipulation, because they have never built a solid foundation within. But the man who commits to stillness and solitude sharpens his mind and stabilizes his emotions. He becomes deeply self-aware, no longer pulled in every direction by people who don't understand him. He no longer wastes energy explaining himself or seeking to be liked. He simply lives and his life speaks for itself. When you're rooted, disagreements don't shake you. Being misunderstood doesn't break you. Losing others doesn't unmake you. You know what you stand for. You move with purpose, not performance. And that quiet certainty becomes your greatest power. This is the man the world needs, not someone constantly chasing approval, but someone who leads from within. A man who doesn't speak to impress, but because he has something to say. A man who doesn't run from the world, but no longer lets it define him. Being rooted doesn't make you hard, it makes you clear. It allows you to walk away from noise, resist manipulation, and stay centered in chaos. And in that grounded presence, you become unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger than anything it throws at you. That's true leadership. That's real masculinity. Stillness leads to alignment, not emptiness. When life gets quiet, most men panic. They think the silence means something is missing: success, love, purpose. But the truth is, silence isn't emptiness. It's an invitation. A call to step back from distractions and meet the man you've ignored for far too long yourself. That's where real alignment begins. The world teaches men to chase attention, women title status. But when you finally stop running and sit in solitude, you realize that what you've been looking for was never out there. It was always within. The man who chooses stillness over distraction isn't lost, he's rebuilding. He's not waiting to be chosen, he's already chosen himself. From that place of quiet, everything starts to shift. You no longer need validation to feel worthy. You no longer need to prove yourself to be enough. You move with a calm confidence because your value no longer depends on how others respond to you. The right people begin to show up, not because you chase them, but because you became someone who naturally draws what aligns. Stillness refines you. It strips away what's false and reveals what's real. And when you build from that place, your life starts to reflect the man you were meant to be, not the man others told you to become. This is not magic, it's mastery. When you stop performing and start aligning, you don't just live differently, you attract differently. The wrong people fade, the right ones stay, and the opportunities that come your way aren't forced, they fit. That's the power of stillness. Not in making life perfect, but in helping you show up whole, focused, and clear. You're not escaping the world. You're finally leading yourself through it with strength, intention, and undeniable presence. If your life feels noisy, chaotic, or directionless right now, don't rush to fill the silence, lean into it. Stillness isn't something to fear. It's where clarity begins. Start by unplugging for just 30 minutes a day. No phone, no scrolling, no background noise. Sit with your thoughts. Let the discomfort rise. That ache you feel when you're alone, it's not weakness, it's your truth trying to surface. Listen to it. Ask yourself hard questions. Am I living for approval or alignment? Am I chasing what I want or what others expect of me? Then be honest about your answers. Stop performing. Start choosing yourself in small ways. Say no when you mean no. Protect your mornings, cut off draining conversations. The more space you create, the more your real values rise. You'll begin to walk differently, speak with more weight, and attract people and opportunities that match your integrity. Stop apologizing for your standards. Stop needing to be seen to know you matter. The moment you stop chasing validation is the moment you start becoming unshakable. Stillness won't make life easier, but it will make you stronger. And in a world full of noise, your quiet clarity will become your loudest message.